Hello, Internet! It's me, in case you were wondering. It's Rogelio Samur. I am a Rocketeer, in case you were wondering also. So today we're starting a new book, not that you didn't know, but we're going to say it anyway. 7 languages in 7 weeks, and surprise, today we're doing Ruby, because that's the first one that they talk about.
I was wondering.
You were wondering! So, without further ado, I would like to say a few things about Ruby before we get started. In chapter 1, I'm just going to do a very brief recap of what he talks about, just how he's going to do the book. How he's going to do the rest of the book. And he talks about, the questions and stuff that he's going to be asking for every one of them. And I'm just going to list them all. You can see them here. It's Ruby, then next week is I/O, Prolog, Scala, Erlang, Clojure, Haskell, and that's it. And then there's a wrap up at the end. Yeah, we're pretty excited. I'm excited. Ruby, there was a few things that were kind of cool, good refreshers. It's not, we all work with Ruby full time. I do want to, ping some of the guys that don't work with Ruby all the time and just kind of get there later in the evening. Do you want to call it that? In the evening. Just to see, what kind of struck him as new, what did they learn from that chapter, what was cool. And what he does throughout the book is he makes a parallel between a known character in the movies and a programming language. And for Ruby, he chose Mary Poppins because she used to say a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. That's it.
What?
It just makes it go down.
Yeah, he
I
said
thought it
how
helps it
preferences.
goes down, not makes it go down.
Yeah, I know. Maybe he's misquoting something.
No, it's makes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Like it forces it down.
Oh, it makes it go down.
Helps the she's
I think honey is better for
helps
that.
the medicine.
What about agave? It's not really what
Yeah, agave.
This is what they're tuned in for.
It's low glycemic.
You see that this
That's
time.
true.
This is dripping
Yeah.
internet television. You guys.
All right. Anyway, so
Yes, I'll talk about Ruby.
so Mary Poppins.
But what about Java?
What about Java? It's like having a rich lawyer as a brother. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
He was fun when he was younger, but now he's a black hole that sucks away all the joy in a 100-mile radius.
That was great.
And I like that.
Right?
The Visual Basic one is pretty cool. Visual Basic was like the beach blonde cosmetologist. She's not going to solve global warming, but she's always good for a haircut and tremendously fun to talk to.
Ought to.
Yeah,
In quotes.
yeah, I forgot to highlight that part. Anyway,
But Ruby, she's fun.
It helps, not makes.
it
Yeah,
helps.
that's-
Yes. It
For
does.
real?
What do you know?
Yeah.
Oh, we need
Miss
to report
Poppins
that.
is up for
See
it.
here, it says report erratum.
Oh, rather.
So,
Too bad it already went in print.
yeah, I know, but this is a newer version from the version that I had in the print.
P2.
So the PDF, if you want the latest one, that's how it works.
Oh.
Digital and whatnot, non-physical.
The pragmatic mouse will tweet at you.
Let's
if
keep
they're
moving.
available.
Um,
Totally
here's how he brings it in to talk about how he connects Ruby and Mary Poppins. He says, "Meet Ruby, one of my favorites. She's sometimes quirky, always beautiful, a little mysterious, and absolutely magical. Think Mary Poppins, the British nanny."
That's just beautiful like a nanny.
Yeah, I know. My nanny was cool, I guess, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
Oh, I keyed. One of the things he interviewed Matt, which I thought was pretty cool, that he got to go to Japan, to his hometown. And one of the things, he's talking about Ruby and blah blah blah, making it beautiful and all this good stuff. But the cool thing that I got out of that interview is he asked him what is a feature that you would like to change if you could go back in time. And Matt said, I would remove the thread and add actors or some more advanced concurrency features, which I thought that would be cool. I don't know how you would do it with the dynamics,
Right.
but that's why he gets paid the big bucks. So Ruby is object-oriented, dot type, productive and fun. It was just doing a Ruby code example there. So day one, let's go through a lightning tour of Ruby. He goes through and he does. Am I going too fast?
No.
On the scrolling with the more. How's that? Can you make it bigger?
That's good.
Nice.
And we can even hide this guy.
What?
You can hide that stupid thing.
You can click the top right. There's a which thing?
Hide
Sidebar.
annotations toolbar, sidebar. No, the sidebar.
It's Command Shift D.
Up. Up.
Go, yeah.
Hide sidebar.
There you
There we go. Is that big enough?
Yes.
Anyway, Matt, take it away, mister.
go. Take it away. As you highlighted, Ruby is almost always interpreted. People are working on compiling it, which is neat. But Ruby provides you an interpreter. You can try out quite a lot of code that you could use in Ruby files, although it's more convenient to write longer code into files. He goes on to show you that every Ruby statement has a return value. And methods return the value of the last expression, yada yada. Ruby expressions evaluate to either true or false. Everything but nil and false evaluate to true, which is neat. So
I thought that was important. This is a question I think that he asks on about every language. Is what is a programming model? And I think the answer to that is that Ruby is a pure object-oriented language.
yes, everything's an object,
Yeah.
including the.
Shane, do you have anything that kind of is all this stuff like you already knew most of the stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I knew that portion, but these two main parts.
The differences between a one quote and a double quote in Ruby. Do you know about that?
Yeah, you can interpolate in a double quote.
Yeah, I mean just the literal string and all that stuff. I don't know, I'm not assuming anything.
Yeah, he goes over that in here somewhere.
Yeah, I have that. So. Cool. I know. What else? Decisions. This is pretty cool. I've seen a lot of stuff. You know, you'll do stuff like put as something if true or if blah blah blah. Those one-liners, a lot of people don't like, and obviously most of the people that are seeing this already know this stuff. So I'm gonna just keep kind of just gloss over this stuff. Just very simple outputting and stuff. You know, should have done I/O. I know, problem.
No, that's not why I was snickering.
Oh,
wait, yes, yes.
That's no way. Is it warm in here or is it just me?
Feel warm,
Let's keep moving.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, I think you skipped over.
Never heard the
Yeah,
term duck typing.
and more as keywords rather than using double ampersand and double pipe.
Oh,
Those
I'll
are-
let Tebow explain that one.
Yeah, you should use the punctuation ones until you know why you shouldn't. Basically, they're designed for logic, this and that, whereas and or decide do this or do that. They're flow control.
Okay. Clear.
And just because it looks a little prettier doesn't mean you're allowed to cheat and use.
Right. Right. I've seen it a lot where you would say, you know, do something, and if that fails, you know, or race. That's, you know.
Yeah, the other pattern you see is like redirect to this and return.
Interesting. Didn't know about
That comes from Perl, mind you, where that was used a lot more frequently because it didn't have exceptions. So you're always saying do this or die.
Yeah, or die. I remember that.
Die is how you exit Perl.
So Cameron, you never heard of duck typing before?
I haven't heard the term.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that.
I haven't heard the term. Don't look me up.
No, it's just funny because he asked if you heard of it. You're like, no, I haven't heard of the term. I mean,
I
I've heard
mean,
of duck
I've
typing.
seen that it's going to be.
I mean, I've heard of duck and then typing. Those two words together, you know. The juxtaposition of those two words confuses me.
It seems like the duck would have a hard time doing one key at once. So.
Yeah.
So if there's,
Talk about fat fingering, you know.
if there's 100 ducks in a room, typing for long enough, you get it moving. Is that how it works?
All right, so let's just read what he talks about when he talks about duck typing. It's either the first thing you need to know is how much protection Ruby will give you when you make a mistake with types. We're talking about type safety. Strongly typed languages like Java or C. They check types for certain operations and check the types before you can do any damage. So in when we're interpreting it, we're doing it as like he does that. 4 plus 4 is 2. Yeah. Then he says string cannot be coerced into fix something.
Hey, that's what it says in the book too.
Hey, look.
I go type 4.class.
So Ruby is strongly typed.
Hello world. Strongly typed.
Well, strongly typed. He does say something at the bottom here. He's lying to you a little bit because whatever.
I don't know, for me,
You can override Ruby to do anything, so.
Yeah, you can overwrite object class.new.
Just strong is a strong word for that.
He said that you could overwrite class.new, like reopen class and redefine the initialize method, and then
And then nothing to do.
nothing happens. Anyway, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that, well, when I think about strongly typed languages, it's something like what Java does.
Like you
where
compile it.
int this
Yeah.
variable equals new.
Well, strongly typed and statically typed are different things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is C strongly typed?
C is statically typed, but not strongly typed.
Okay.
Right.
They're also very ill-defined words, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
But static means, it's defined at compile time, what everything is. Every variable has a type at compile time.
But that's the one that you would say int or
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
right. And so by that definition, Ruby is strongly typed because it will tell you that it can't do what it just told you, right? But it does that when you run it, at runtime.
Right.
Not when there's no compiling because it's all interpreted. So.
So where's the duck coming?
Hold on, we're getting there.
Duck type here.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
let me just keep reading this. So Ruby is not type check until you actually execute the code, which we just said. This concept is called dynamic typing.
Which is the opposite of static typing.
Right. There are disadvantages. You can't catch as many errors as you can with static typing because compilers and tools can match more errors with a statically typed system. But Ruby's type system also has several potential advantages, blah, blah, blah. So here we go. Then it shows you this example. I equals 0, A equals this array, 100 and that while I is less than 2, it puts a, what you just saw is duck typing in action. So why is that duck typing in action? The first element of the array is a string, the second one is a float, right? The same code converts each to an integer via 2i. Duck typing doesn't care what the underlying type might be. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it is a duck. So in this case, the quack method is 2i.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, it is kind of
Next chapter we'll go over turtles all the way down.
Sweet.
And then what they like to use.
turtle typing. Yeah, that's the best one.
Did the shell get in the way?
Tim, do you wanna explain that? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, dude. Do you want to talk about coding to an interface rather than implementation? I mean, you hear this said over and over again, but can you lay down the law on what? Can you just give an example of how that?
Well, I mean, I usually explain it in terms of duck typing. Don't check that what you have is a duck. Check that it responds to a quack method. Because that's what you really care about, is you want something that quacks.
Right.
You don't care if it's a duck or a goose.
Right, like you might originally use something that's a hash, and then you end up replacing it with another object that has hash-like behavior, and if you have logic around it that verifies that it's a hash, even if it still behaves like a hash, it'll no longer succeed. So you should be coding to the interface that you define instead of the implementation that is current.
I guess the other half of that is when you're designing an object, think about how you would expect it to behave, what methods it should have, and then code those, and then drill down and decide how it works inside later. Don't say, well, I've got to store things in a hash, so I'm going to define the bracket method, and that's how you get inside the hash. Think about what you actually need to access. What other people would care about before what you care about.
That was the end of day one.
Right. And
Basics of it.
Well, then it takes
Yeah.
10 minutes in. 10 minutes in. He gives you some stuff that you can do to self-study, find the Ruby API, blah, blah, blah. He gives you just some very simple things to do on the command, on IRB. But he does give you a bonus problem at the end if you're feeling the need for a little more. Write a program that picks a random number, let a player guess the number, telling the player whether the guess is too low or too high. I did my homework, and I want to show it to you. It's a silly little program. Say what?
It's an Untitled.
And I'm tall, although right now I'm sitting down, in case you were wondering.
Sit down now.
So I want to show it to you in action first. Guess a number.
Test.rb, huh?
Yeah. What? I don't know what else I should call it.
So what do you mean your other homework?
3.
Should have called it day 1.
I know.
6.
13.
5,
Wait, 6?
13.
7.
No, 8.
False.
8.
7.
I told you it was 7.
You guessed right, it was 7.
Can we see your implementation route?
It's gonna be embarrassing.
No.
Would it break if you type something stupid?
It would just say it's too high.
Whoa.
It says too low.
Did you use the non...
You used it! I'm going
use
to...
English and!
Dude, it's an example to...
Right, an example.
An
but
example is all the more important.
To
Not act like an
fix!
idiot.
Oh,
Oh my
okay.
gosh, you let me get to the code?
Wait.
Remember we were talking about earlier?
Right, but you should have given an example where it failed when you did the wrong thing instead of an example where everything worked out fine.
Are you
You're
ready?
just reinforcing bad concepts.
No, I'm just saying this is where you don't use this.
Yes.
This is how you. This is how you start an argument.
That's where you use it.
Oh, by the way, that's not going to work because the ampersand is going to bind tighter than the equal. You just run it. You just broke it.
Oh yeah, it is.
I thought I read this.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Oh!
Oh well, and that's how you don't do it.
That's
Oh, because it's until. Oops.
And well, you're actually doing a weird form of flow control there because the first half is imperative. You're not actually. That's always going to return true. You're not checking that.
Yeah.
It's the second half that's the logic. So yes, and was.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you were.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I had it right. I don't know why I'm listening to you.
Alright.
I remember doing it. I remember debating about even showing this, but
Wait a minute. So
Oh, well, too late now.
the English and the symbol and have different.
so this is flow control. I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, they have different precedents. See,
That's
Right.
weird. Why do they have different precedents?
Because
well,
once
the
you start
idea
flow
is
control,
if
then
you're
it's
using the
useful for
ampersand or the pipe ones, you can actually take all that and then assign it to a result. So it binds tighter than the assignment. So that would be if you're using ampersands there, everything would get assigned to answer.
Right.
Whereas and is for where you're doing something, assign this here or do this other thing. So
That's really esoteric. It's weird.
that's why I started
it's-
with don't worry about it till your year's end. This is a
Yeah.
very
I think it's more. Isn't it more syntactic? Sure. Well, no.
No.
It's
No, it sounds
syntactic,
totally different.
It's more like agave nectar.
It's sour.
It's more like a.
It's an artifact of Pearl where it
Insanity.
can be expressive.
Anyway, you were wanting to add something to this?
Me, mine looks a little different.
Okay.
I didn't use the ternary. I basically.
Oh my goodness.
Did you need the standard in? You referred to the standard in? Because I just
You
used
don't-
gets.
Yeah.
I do gets chomped to integer.
Yeah, I just did a gets when I did.
For
Yeah.
that matter, if you leave off the chop, the new line isn't going to confuse it. If you really want to save on characters.
It's faster. Yeah, mine was basically the same. I set the number to a random number, up to 10 when I run the file. And answer is nil. This might be weird. I also set answer to nil, and I say when answer is not the number. I could have said until answer is the number.
I just wanted to use the examples that they were using in that chapter, the
Yeah.
until. And I remember doing it with what you were saying you wanted to add to say how many times you guess, but I guess it doesn't matter.
Also, you start as an integer and then you convert it to a string for comparison.
Yeah.
What does yours do?
I didn't do it.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I made the right decision here.
I didn't change the type at all.
No one can
It worked
judge
out
me.
fine. I converted the answer.
Well, the answer, you're either gonna, I guess it could have just been 2i here and then we're done.
No, you don't even need to make it in. Just make the first one a string and then just have it strings all the way down.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, you can still do
Or-
comparison with string.
and-
Oh no, that won't work actually.
You already did a 2i once.
How
So
does
get
the
rid of the
comparison
2i.
work with a string that holds a number?
A 2i.
Does it just with those string size? Because then they'd be equal each time.
For that
since it's
matter,
ASCII,
wow.
I bet that
Yeah,
you
let me
could
see.
just compare it with
The first time is 2i, and this is already 2i. So
a
yeah.
string of 1 and a string of 2 are still going to
Oh,
compare.
and
Oh,
later.
not only that, you say guess between
Yeah.
1 and 10,
That's what
but
I-
you give them
I
a
was
number
expecting
between
that.
0 and 9.
Mm.
I say pick a number.
They'll never know.
0
It's random. They'll never know.
What-
Why am I not getting
What
that?
happens if they use 10? Oh,
Yeah, they're going to enter a 1, it's going to say too low. They're going to be like hell it is.
Okay, here we go. This is how you do it.
Dot suck on the end.
Or you don't need, bro, you don't need any you don't need any integers at all.
Huh?
You don't need any integers at all. The number can just be a string and your answer.
Yeah,
Right, that's what
that's what we're saying.
Except for the comparison.
Making it an
Or
array.
high or low.
Well, I wanted to
If you compare the 10 to 1 as a string,
do it. If we do it this way, then we can get
or
random like this. Ta-da! What do you guys think of that?
I don't think that's that's like an active support or some shit.
Oh.
Try it. Don't let me be the judge. Let Ruby shut down your dreams.
Oh. Private method.
Yeah,
what
because
about-
it's trying to call the kernel random. It was going to give you a random number between 0 and 1.
Bro, you sample.
You're thinking of sample, but that's only in active support.
Also,
Yeah.
so that's why I did
Oh,
it the other way.
Now it's
Yes.
so
Just add
Do
one.
ran 10 dot
The way you guys the number was fine.
ran 10 dot suck.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The successor. That's a clever way to say plus 1.
I thought you were just being mean.
And is this gonna work or not? I guess let's check it out. Let's check it out.
Wait, one was.
Yeah, it's not working. See.
Enter 10. Yes.
Oh.
No. See now you can actually get a 10. I'm,
It's not that it's not working, it's that it is working.
The problem is that you're
What's
guessing wrong.
What's
yes.
The problem is you're guessing.
Much like your color.
Bro,
What?
but the neat thing is our solutions probably look pretty different, but we had a number of keywords that we could use for flow control and things like that, and the logic. Yours is like a one-liner, mine is
37.
no.
It's like 12.
You have the freedom to express like your conditions here in a number of different ways. It's more like English than just
Yeah.
just one way to do it.
What does suck do? Somebody?
It succeeds.
Succeeds.
Goes to the next number, or if it's a string,
It does a weird
Oh,
thing.
it just-
it's a weird thing.
Just-
It's
Let's
the next.
see.
It's the successor.
Hey,
Just
let's
one.
let's
It's
see
plus.
what it
It's
does.
a clever plus 1.
Alright.
But it works as strings. So you
Can
can
you do ran10++? Would that work too?
No.
There's no plus plus.
Yeah, that was the other day.
Plus equal one.
Plus plus also
Oh, plus
mutates a
equals
variable, so it can't take something like
Gotcha.
a literal.
What's a good example of that?
Anything.
Well, let's just do it. See what happens with this.
String.
It'll just
I think
increment the last letter.
So we blodge.
Blind.
And then if you get like A to Z, it'll go A.
Do Z that suck?
Or no.
No, it should go to 0 to 9 and then capital letters.
Right.
No, it goes
Ooh, it goes to AA.
Right.
Yeah, it had a little too much to drink.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's not expected.
Yeah.
It's nifty for stuff.
Like if you're writing a
Such a really
URL
good idea.
shortener.
Does
Yeah.
ZA,
Yeah.
does ZA,
Yes.
I mean, does
Starts-
AZ go to BA?
I'm pretty sure it does.
You want to
Do
try?
AZ, do AZ.
I bet it goes
Come
to
on.
I think it just goes
Triple A.
to
You know what we
A,
should
Z.
do next time?
I think it goes A to
What we
Z.
should
No,
do.
BA.
Ah.
So I'm gonna call you AZ.
It's such a weird
So
function.
next time.
AZ suck.
Next time, what we should do is you all should be able to screen share into my computer and then start typing your own crap. That way,
Yeah.
you know, you can mess with my stuff.
Screen sharing.
This is just day one.
And this is just day one. Sorry, let's keep moving.
Blocks are cool.
Just wait until we get
That's
to things
another-
we
that's
don't know
another
about.
I
thing.
know, we're gonna practice
We're gonna be
that
all
for
sorts of
3
stupid
weeks.
looking.
Yeah, this is just Ruby.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what the other stuff is gonna look like. Your IO code.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Oh,
You wanna see my IO code or something?
It's not gonna. No, IO code can't be great.
Can?
IO is fucking awesome.
Oh boy.
It looks really
Focus
cool so
people.
far.
These are arrays.
Collections and blocks and
Everything has the same.
things. Fun.
I want to talk about. We don't have much time.
Things, and you're done.
Sorry guys, this is kind of a. I mean, we assume most of the stuff is already. You guys are already familiar with. For I/O, however, what we want to do is we're going to start either a set of gists and post them out there after next week, so that you can get to the code samples and stuff. But the whole point and the whole idea of the code of the chapter, sorry, of Bruce State's point is that you should go out and do it yourself without looking, without cheating. Basically, the whole point of him doing this is for you to expand your knowledge and grow in something that you're not comfortable with. Obviously, Ruby, we do it every day and stuff, and we learn different things. I wanted to use something that I don't use every day, like until and all that other stuff, when I wrote that silly little 5-liner. But anyway, I want to talk about closures, code blocks, and how you can use them. That's what I call blocks or lambdas, my little bundles of joy, bundles of code. Sorry. And so here's something a common practice is if a block is just in one line, then you use the braces. And if
What is a block?
a block is a function without a name. It's an essay. You can pass it. You can pass it no parameter. You can pass it any number of parameters. Actually, so
You pass it as.
You can pass it.
you
to a
can
function
pass a
or
whole.
a method.
You can pass it. Yeah, as. Do you want to add more to that?
No, I thought it was funny.
Sorry. I just kind of want to. I do want to keep moving because we have like 20 minutes left.
I know, but we're like getting to the stuff that's actually interesting about Ruby, and we're skipping past it.
Oh no! I wasn't gonna skip
We're
over
like,
blocks.
hey, check out comparison.
I wasn't gonna skip over blocks. I wanted to. Where are my?
What's
Yeah, I left in my book.
Ruby is a block party. It's a direct quote.
Yes, Ruby is a block party. Did anybody want to share something cool about blocks that they've seen used?
They're nice syntactic sugar for passing around anonymous functions instead of looking all gross like JavaScript.
Yes.
They're good for. It's gross.
You can assign them to.
You can do that in Ruby too.
They look gross when you do that.
So
But
you can write
Right, but you don't
JavaScript
have
that's
to.
not gross like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I don't believe you. Not gross JavaScript. Come on.
Being able to, I mean, the way I ended up, I had to read about it recently because I was confused by how to stop a yield or figure out like how to get at a yield and modify it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like for my personal site, I learned about that, and it's nice to be able to like either pass a function a string or just type do and then throw some more stuff on the next line and then have your function handle whether it's being passed a single thing or a block of stuff. It's very convenient.
And by function, you mean
Method. By method, I mean.
No, you can pass it to methods or functions.
Right.
One or two of them or more.
Things, but it's super convenient.
So let's look at an example of how it's used in the.
So that's awesome.
What's with the, is the ampersand just,
That's how you capture a block in a variable.
is it just, that's just how you do it? You have to type ampersand block? And that's-
Yeah, basically
Well, ampersand, whatever.
every method gets an implicit one free block that comes with it as an
Oh,
implicit
okay.
parameter.
Is it?
And if you want to explicitly act on it, you need to put it in the parameter list as a special kind of parameter. The ampersand sets that apart.
Oh, okay.
Save that.
And you can do
And
it
if
the
you want
other
to
way.
pass like a
around.
method as an object, you have to or a method object as a block, you have to preface it with the ampersand as well.
Right. So I don't know if you can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, you know, we have two methods. One called pass block, which you pass it the block, and then it calls call block, which does exactly that, block that call. And so then how you execute it is you say pass block, and then whatever you pass in here, it's just gonna call that. Now, a little bit something more sophisticated would be yield if emergency. When it's more conditional, actually there's
I thought that was stupid.
yeah
That
there's
in
a
case of
better
emergency,
this
it's like,
is-
hey, here's an excuse to use blocks.
right.
instead of
There's
just-
actually the transaction in active record is actually a better which is
Yeah.
I mean in a very simplified form it's this, right?
Yeah. One trick they probably it would have been cool to show is if you could put ensure at the end of that, so that even if there's an exception, in transaction will still run.
Oh
Which may or may not make sense, actually. I guess it depends on what in transaction does.
yeah. Oh, so you're saying
That's another useful pattern is when you want to execute something before and after, and you want to make sure the thing after runs, even if there's an exception in the middle. Like opening a file, you do the file that opened is like it's basically begin. It did yield a new file, ensure that file gets closed.
right? Or you can just open it in a block, and then when that block is closed.
Well, that's because
That's the name of
how file open implements it is with a block and it uses ensure under the covers.
Oh, is that how
That's what
Yeah.
that was trying.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, he doesn't talk about ensure that at all actually in this whole chapter.
Well, I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can cover.
Right.
in.
Yeah, no. It's not
He's using 1.8 in this chapter, by the way. Ruby 1.8.
that's what I was using.
Hmm?
That's what I was using.
I use the Ruby of the future.
Ruby 3?
Ruby 192,
Oh, yeah.
136.
Outline
Yeah,
does.
this would be basic object in 1.9.
Actually, no. Are you sure?
Yes.
Try it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is basic object. Is the
I'm
root
pretty sure
object.
basic object actually inherits from object, and then
I think
moves on
object
methods.
inherits from basic object.
Do it.
Because object includes kernel mod.
4 superclasses. You're not in a I or B. You're just typing that shit.
Oh shit.
So what is it?
That's not gonna work, man.
Yeah.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, it's
Object
probably better if
ancestors
we
don't
can
last.
see it.
Yeah.
Oh, true, you have to use one of them. Sorry.
1.9.2.
That should do it because it's the
It's not
The numbers are at the top.
136 is not the latest one, I don't think.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. 4. You can just call 4 class.ancestors. Actually.
Don't last.
Just ancestors. Basic object.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
I was
know.
pretty sure I checked that before. I wonder if something changed.
And that's not in the correct order though. It's sorted incorrectly because kernel would become come before object and basic object.
So what you want me
I thought
to do?
kernel-
Well,
was a
it's the
module that
way
included
it
an
walks the
object.
hierarchy. It goes to the class, and then it walks through its ancestors. Because that's the same order it would dispatch methods in.
Oh, yeah. Here's the next one.
Yeah, there.
So it is in order, except for that part.
Because kernel's not actually a.
Yeah.
It's just a module, right? That's
Yes.
included in an object.
Yes. Just like numeric is a module that's included in integer. And comparable is a module that's included in numeric. Woo! That's it.
Is it numerable or numerable?
What?
I didn't say enumerable, I said numeric.
Incomparable.
What?
Inconceivable.
Too soon. you combined the two. Comparable and
I'm gonna just
What
keep
did I
doing
say?
numeric.
super class, super freak. So object,
It's the tiny little thing.
and then, well, of course this is gonna say
Nil.
the basic object now.
And
basic
then
object.
superclass.
Oh,
of
you're
basic
back in
object
Ruby
is
one.
now-
Yeah, in Ruby 1.8, so what we're saying is the difference between these two, let me open a new tab because I can.
Does anybody know what you would use basic object for? I read like.
Instead of having to use like a
Overlook
custom
level
blank object,
proxies. Yes.
it's good for object proxies.
Yeah, so that's nil, right? The same code.
Because back in the day, we used to have custom blank slate objects, which were dumb and hacky, and everyone did it differently. And you used undef method, and it's just dumb. So now it's less dumb.
Right, so
I haven't used them yet, but. Oh, the tree class.
do we want to talk about this? It's just
You don't have enough time.
it's just implementing
What's the most important thing left in the chapter?
You still have
metaprogramming.
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 Yeah,
Free.
Oh.
which has like
Maybe we should just divide this chapter up.
Yeah, don't.
Three.
I mean, this seems like you guys' wheelhouse. There's a lot to talk about. If
Okay.
we spend 2 book clubs on it, that's not bad.
Well,
lots more time to prepare for IO then.
Oh shit, that means I have to talk about Ruby next week?
yeah.
I don't want to talk about Ruby.
You don't? Okay.
But this has gone better than any of us could have imagined.
That's exactly why. I would drop the ball after the massive success this has been.
Can have John do it.
We can talk about that offline. Hey, so anyway, let's go straight. Actually, let's just jump
Sorry.
to mixins. Mixins are the way. Instead of having multiple inheritance, this is a big deal, right? Instead of having multiple inheritance, Ruby uses mixins. Yeah, in single inheritance. So in the way that you do that is you create a module.
I like how it says experience as shown, so you don't have to justify it. It's just such weasel words, but whatever. I would do the same thing because I don't know why. I just know people say it.
Complicated and problematic.
What problems?
So you're like,
I
what
wish it
kind
could be
of
like.
thingy am I?
I wish it could be like Wikipedia that you can say citation needed. You know? Right here.
Yeah, but then it would just link to a blog post that said it was complicated and problematic
Yeah.
for the citation.
Yeah.
Um,
So
This is modules.
you see, I mean, if you've been using Ruby at all, and if you've been like diving into open source code out there, you'll see a common idiom. A common practice is mixing in stuff. He actually also talks about Tipo. I want to have to let you talk about this.
I think that needs to
The inject.
stay for next week.
Yeah. No. I mean, let's just
All right.
keep going. The modules and then mixing them in. So they're talking about for enumerable, for instance, in the comparable mixins, what you do is if you're gonna use that, you have to implement 2 things. You have to, if you're using enumerable, you implement each. And if you're using comparable, you implement the spaceship operator. And that's about it. If you want to use them, and then
Is there a better name for that operator than spaceship? I always feel stupid when I say it.
Once again,
It's
everything came from Perl.
Double-sided
Thanks, Pearl.
thing. I don't know.
Say that again.
Burger.
What? No.
I mean, it's like, I just always refer to it as a comparison operator.
It's like a burger.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, it works.
Spaceships for young folks.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, young folks who did Pearl back when you were still in diapers.
Wait, what?
It's not new.
He just goes through and does examples about any and all, and I think those are
Select.
he refers to those as, I think he does as in syntactic sugar.
They're not syntactic, but they are sugar.
Helps the
Yeah,
medicine
sugar.
go down.
All right.
I'm moving.
Alright,
I'm
so-
moving on. Serious
So what's a
change.
module? Huh?
A module is, well, I'm actually gonna get to an example
Oh, okay.
when we're talking about metaprogramming, because he uses the included hook and just kind of put it all together that way because we're running out of time. That way we can talk about everything. So moving on to reopening a class. So basically you can do what? Did that freak you out?
Moving on to what?
What? Freaking you out? You can reopen the nil class and then do something like this. Something I think this is what they do in active support, where
Pretty much, yes.
so now when you in string, when you say blank, it'll respond to an empty string or nil. So anyway, that's a way of reopening. That's also as a form of metaprogramming that he's saying. You're basically reopening the class.
And then he talks about
I don't think
method.
reopening a class is really metaprogramming. It's monkey patching.
Well,
There's no dynamically defined code in there.
This is a tool you can use for metaprogramming. He doesn't actually say it's metaprogramming.
all right.
Rose said it was metaprogramming.
I say it was
It's also an example of duck typing. Utility of it.
You're right. Then there's a method missing, which is used.
Kind of getting into the meta.
Yeah. And he goes on and he gives an example of how you would do like, you just write this class called Roman and then it has method missing and then, you translate the weird ones into
Wow.
What easier to count?
what you do and then it returns, since Ruby returns the last thing that was executed implicitly, then that's the number that gets back.
I like everything but his omission of parentheses from his signature.
Then there's no space for him.
He does that in several places. Does anyone do that? Like
Jerk.
Yes,
regularly?
you find you see that out in the wild. It's gotten better, but it happens.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you guys did because
Why was a big
His
fan.
example in
Yes.
here is his example in the text is with lowercase, which is not accounted for up here.
All you have to do
So-
is add that down case to the end.
yeah.
So that's one way using method missing, and then back to modules is you can redefine. You're reopening the table, and then you can also use the included hook. I'm not gonna use this example. I want to use the example that he rewrites
Access CFD.
with he's trying to that wherever you do this macro, whatever class you include this, and then you run this macro, it's gonna do this. Basically, it's gonna actually this is not even the right one. This is the right one.
Second example.
The third example actually, where he says use the included hook, right, and it takes the base, which in this case is the Ruby CSV, right? So you say include actual CSV, and then you run it. And what that does is it extends the class methods module, which is a submodule of access CSV, and then it defines. So this is metaprogramming access CSV, which it in itself includes the instance methods, which then defines the read, and then the two accessors, headers, and CSV contents, and then the initialize, which just runs the read. And so, when in real life, what you'll do is Ruby CSV.new, and then it puts the headers and then the contents and stuff like that.
2 minutes.
Yeah, that's as a wrap up. You know, he's talking about the core strengths of Ruby is how dynamic and how it allows you to be very expressive, but with that dynamicness and you know comes the
Great responsibility.
yeah, it does because you can do a lot
Spider-Man.
of bad stuff, but
Also, lack of performance.
yeah, the lack of performance is
But the increase in productivity.
But just wait till we get to
performance
I/O, where you can introspect even more and perform even more poorly.
oh, is that right? So he says that Ruby is good for use the right tool for the right application, and Ruby is good for a lot of things. Scripting being one of them, web applications with Rails being out everywhere being the other one.
That's it.
But the problem is,
Performance, concurrency.
yeah, the concurrency. You can't really have concurrency with object-oriented programming because he's saying it's really hard to debug, which is, I think that's where we're gonna see Scala, which is supposed to,
Erlang is awesome.
in Erlang too. Oh yeah,
Also Haskell.
in Haskell plugins.
The only true-
Also Clojure. Basically every language that isn't
Or I/O. But
every language people actually use.
and the thing is, and there's Rubinius, there's JRuby and stuff like that make it a little bit faster. But like he says, Mats is more concerned with optimizing the programmer's experience and not necessarily the performance of the language. So, which I'm okay with. So, sorry, it was kind of I was all over the place. But Ruby is, we made a lot of assumptions with Ruby because most of us know it, and so we skipped a lot of stuff. I'm sure we're gonna be more thorough with our next programming
Yeah,
languages.
but I mean, it was good to start with this and just like get out the basics about Ruby so that we can come back and compare
Yeah,
to this later. Like, for example, we can set values or compare them, and in Erlang, you're generally actually doing comparison
Right.
if someone's not set it.
right.
So we can just keep looking back at Ruby as like our, I don't know, what do you call it? Anyway,
Baseline,
A
yeah,
baseline.
Baseline, I guess.
Still using the
Point
baseline.
of comparison.
lingua franca.
All right, internets. I guess we'll see you next week. Next week is I/O. We're done with Ruby, so be ready.
Next week, Hashrocket will be an I/O show.
In I/O later.